forgot what existed. The Popcast? You're here every single week. How could you forget? Hello, Fairy. We're going to talk exclusively about Frostburn today in Cloudburst. Hello, Carbine. Silver, Jub is not sending you condolences. You're at home this week? Are you do you not believe in school anymore? You should still be in school. You're not in college. You should still be in school till like June. Or are you just playing hooky? That's the most likely scenario, I would assume, from you. Silver, you're the reason why this stream has a mature content warning on it, even though I try not to say dirty words too much. On stream, at least. I still keep it on because I know children like you like to say potty words in chat. We're talking about Cloudburst today. There's a lot of, I probably should have asked somebody who was involved in Cloudburst to come on this, because I have a lot of questions. Like, why is it called Cloudburst? Hello, Tofu. Wait, what drama are you guys talking about? There's no drama. I didn't miss any drama. Are they really, or is that just one tweet JPEG sent out? Like, are multiple people complaining about it Because I didn't see that. All I saw was just JPEG tweet out something, which we're going to talk about, but I didn't see multiple people complaining. If that's the case, oh, that's annoying, but Kbot. Can you impromptu come on to the podcast and answer questions? Now that I thought about it, I was like, wait a minute. There's a lot of things about this tournament I don't know. A, why is it called Cloudburst? B, where did the sign-up money come from? D, how come high-level teams didn't sign up for it? And why are people upset that low-level teams didn't sign up for it? Which I'm going to cover on my own anyways, but... But yeah, I was excited. I was like, look, there's no low-level tournaments going on. I want to do more things outside of just low-level. And I was like, I was excited to do Cloudburst. And it's still, I mean, there's still a lot to talk about with Cloudburst. But no, Carbine. Multiple top-level players you saw last night. I didn't see anybody complain. I just saw JPEG's tweet about, hey, low level, why aren't you supporting high level stuff, which we're going to talk about. I didn't see anybody okay, Kbot, yeah, legit. Hold on. Jared made a tweet. Oh my goodness, this can't be the same Jared. This one's just retweeting anime porn, looks like. Is resilience lower mid-level? I don't know. Where does low level end and where does mid-level start? You guys are in the low-level top 50, so Toph, that's not official yet. And I don't, I don't know what the answer to that is, honestly, who is and ain't banned from the next low link. Again, that's not my decision to make anyway, so that's something we haven't even talked about right now. I mean, low link, we got some guys that are finishing up college stuff. So if people are wondering why low link hasn't been announced yet, it's because TOs are in the middle of finals. So we're not. So anybody asking if they're banned or not, that's something way down the line. As far as getting figured out, so who knows. Good morning, Evie. Good morning, Smash. Thank you for the host. I watch or listen to the Mahi Mahi Monsoon podcast you did yesterday. Those guys are students of the game. And it's good that came out after the ITAP. They talked about a lot of things on there about the ITAP match. And it's good that you released it after they played ITAP. Because if I'm ITAP and I'm listening to that, I'm like, oh, they're going to key in on our tent? Like, they're going to focus exclusively on our tent? Like, that's good information to know beforehand. But I would assume ITAP should know that anyways. That Are you banned? Well, you won low inks, Evie. So yeah, you're banned. I'll tell you that right now. You are officially banned from low ink. You can ask for an exemption request if you want to get denied publicly again. Okay, all right, good. We'll start. Boing is here. So we'll go ahead and get started then. I was waiting for you. Boing. That's kind of how that works, Echo. I mean, if you want to... Oh, hey! Valor Rock, you sent me a DM. I forgot to get back to you about that. I'll make sure to do that. Not to sound uber important or anything, but I get a lot of DMs of people saying, "Hey, I got this idea," or "Hey, here's what I'm doing. Do you have any thoughts on this?" And I usually just say, "I'm like taking a bath right now, so I'll get back to that later." And I never get back to it, so sorry. I'll get back to it eventually. At some point, I have to turn my brain off to all this stuff and focus on what's really important, like watching anime. Looking forward to find out how your April rankings are way off. Yeah. You do, Evie, and I appreciate that. I'll watch the one set you sent me is actually pretty good this time around, so I'll watch that tomorrow or later tonight. Yeah, you guys keep DMing me during my anime time. Yeah, I don't know why the Phantoms stream on YouTube instead of Twitch. I guess it doesn't really matter. I'm not too familiar with how YouTube works with their streams. But yeah, the Phantom overlays are sexy. Clearly put a lot of effort and heart into what they do there. That's awesome. I forgot to put this just now starting. People on YouTube are gonna go crazy. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or VOD, Twitch or YouTube, while you are figuring out where you stand on the casual, competitive content creator triangle, debating on who in your set should be Bravo on Skipper Zones, making an emote of my face because I overemphasize the word mahi mahi, whatever it is that you're doing right now. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Hey, somebody was asking about Spotify. Again, when am I going to start putting things up on Spotify? And my answer has always been, I don't know. I don't know how to figure this out. I don't know how to take this, what you're looking right here, and convert it directly to audio that can go up onto Spotify. However, Chili of Amnesia has been trying to work with me to figure this out and has sent me some new information that I have also yet figured out how to do myself. And Falco has just sent me something in chat, so maybe there's something right there. Regardless, I am once again looking into it. If that is the case, I'm probably not going to upload all 48 episodes of the Popcast directly onto it. We'll probably start with something like episode 50 that's going to be next week. But for all you guys that are curious about Spotify, I'm still looking into making it happen. There might have been a way that we can get it done. So just be a little bit more patient. Maybe with episode 50, we can get it rolling here. My concern has always been, well, originally this was supposed to just be something you listen to. If you look back at like episode 1 through 3 on YouTube, it's just my logo and that's it. You can't see the chat. Sometimes I would interact with chat and not read out the chat comment that I'm interacting with, and it makes no sense. So maybe for the podcast, if you listen to this on Spotify and you don't see the chat and you don't see my beautiful face, and sometimes I do share my screen and I'm talking about what's on the screen, you're going to miss out on that as well. Just fine. I'm probably not going to change my style. My style is still going to cater to this live audience show that I do. So if you're listening to this on Spotify, there might be some context that you're missing, but that just is what it is. We can't please everybody here. But if there's more ways for you to consume my content, then yes, I'm all for it. So there you go. People have been asking about Spotify for a long time, but I think we finally have a light at the end of the tunnel for that. There's no tourney this weekend that concerns low level, right? I mean, there wasn't one last weekend, which is why I'm talking about Cloudburst. But I don't think there's one this upcoming weekend. I know Minnow Cup and Checkpoint 1 are the weekend after on May the 15th, I believe, is that upcoming Saturday. So 2 weeks from now we're gonna have some more low level tournaments coming back out. There's nothing really going on this way. Oh crap, when is Mother's Day? Is that this upcoming Sunday? Crap. Okay, cool. There you go. Breaking news here on the podcast. Mother's Day is this upcoming weekend. So make sure you spend some time with that instead of playing Splatoon. Your mom's important, unless she's not. Ludi Week 2 recap is going to be on Wednesday. I have a lot of VODs to watch. It seems like there's more VODs of Div 5 through 8 floating around than there were this time last week for Week 1. A lot of you have DM'd me your VODs. Thank you for that. It's not a promise that I'm going to watch every single VOD that you send me. If it's a good match, the score wise, like a 5-4, 5-3 kind of thing, I'll peek into it. If it's something like 5-0, 5-1, it's very rare that I'll actually spend time to look into that. I did look, last week, Evie sent me 3 a.m. versus Dreamscape, I believe, and I was like, okay, I'm not touching this. And then 3 a.m. made Alpha Bracket, and that made me think, oh, crap, this Dreamscape team, I want to look into them. So there was like a reason for me to look at that 5-0 set. So just because it's 5-0 doesn't mean I won't look at it, but if it's... my point is being, thank you for sending me stuff. Doesn't mean I'm going to look at it because you send it to me, but it definitely gives me some more context when I talk about games, other than just being like, well, this team beat that team 5-4, so that means it was a really good set. No, it could have been a really bad set for all we know. You got to actually look at these things for context. So thank you for the people who send me that stuff. We will recap Week 2 on Wednesday. We are grinding the Popcast this month, man. We are putting in effort and driving myself insane at the same time because I'm also playing in Ludi and TOing and commentating and all that good stuff. But hey, if you want something, you got to work hard for it. And what I want is just to watch more anime. Today, we are going to be talking about Cloudburst. Is it a major? Is it a minor? Is it a semi-major? What was this thing? It was a great tournament that we're going to talk about in an extent. This is the first time that I'm going to be covering a tournament that is not a skill cap tournament. I mean, I've talked about Triple G, I've talked about the NA Open to some extent, but I've never gone through and done like a deep dive legit look into everything that happened in this tournament. This is something I want to do more of. I don't want to change the focus of this podcast. The focus of this was to tell the stories of low level that people are not talking about, that nobody really realizes is going on. To talk about teams that make up this community, that do a lot for this community, and teams we should all be excited about, but nobody was really talking about them at all. So that's why I don't want to lose focus of that on the Popcast. The Popcast needs to focus exclusively on that sector of the community that's underrepresented. A lot of people talk about everything at the top end. There's plenty of other podcasts out there. Talk Speed Up is the only one that comes to mind, but I'm sure there's several others. It gets most of the attention on Twitter. So there doesn't need to be something, I think, that focuses exclusively on the entire community as a whole, just yet. But I would like to eventually get the Popcast to be something like that still has a heavy emphasis on low level competitive Splatoon. So consider this the first step into doing something like that by talking about Cloudburst. But unfortunately, from tweets that were made last night, we still have to talk about low level and their, I guess, lack of participation into this tournament. But we'll get to that when we get to that. But first, if you will, open your, take out a copy of this that is placed right in front of you, called the Book of Parias, and we are opening to chapter 1. As we are going to be talking about the low level rankings. So let's take a look see here at this thing. The April rankings of the low level has come out, and I love this thing. I love this thing so much. Why I like this and see it as something we should put stock in is something I'm about to explain. I screwed up that sentence. First off, last time this came out, I said I felt like I knew who was behind this, but I didn't know 100% sure, so I wasn't going to say. But now it's pretty obvious. It is Parias who is the one who is behind this. He was streaming on his Twitch channel, like some transparency behind, as he was making the list, basically, and also did a stream afterwards when the list got released, explaining to teams why they got into what spot for people that showed up into that. I did not watch either of those streams for two reasons. One, there's so much looty stuff that I got to catch up with that I didn't really have time. Two, is because I don't want to have what Pariah says on his streams to influence what I say about this. I don't want it just to be, just me regurgitating the things he says on his streams about these certain teams. Instead, I would just rather give my personal thoughts on this list. And if my thoughts happen to just match up with what Pariah says, then there you go. Like, good minds think alike. But I can't speak highly enough about Parias when it comes to things like this. Parias usually wins the fantasy bracket. I believe he's won the last 2 seasons of the Ludi fantasy bracket. He's on the Ludi seeding council, has been involved with the Western top 50 or top 60, and has obviously been doing low-level rankings like this. It used to be like the top 100 low-level. That was a bit too much, and is now consistently starting to do these each month. So I trust this as something that is legit, a credible source of a ranking list, I guess you could say, for the lower level of Splatoon. Do we need a ranking list for the lower level of the community? That is the question. I would argue that there's nothing wrong with having something like this. The reason it does exist to begin with is because the Western Top 60 came out. And a good portion of the Western Top 60 included 0 teams that you would consider to be low level. Usually the team that won low ink would show up somewhere on there, but now there's so many teams that are active in the community that winning low ink is something that isn't even going to be a blimp on the radar of the Western Top 60 at this point. So if you're going by just rankings, because we're in a society that's trying to stop being so dependent upon looty divs, right? That's what we should be working towards. The only way to do that, you can't do that by having just 60 teams ranked in the entire community every month when we have 320. So something like this that focuses exclusively on teams that are in the lower level, I think is helpful. It helps give teams a scope of where they sit in the grand scheme of things. Not just, oh, I made alpha bracket this month, that means I'm the top 16. No, that's not always the case, because some other teams played in other tournaments and popped off that might be better than what you did in low ink, just going 4-2 on Saturday and then getting your butt kicked immediately on Sunday of low ink and alpha bracket. So there's other factors that play into that, and I think getting a snapshot each month of where each team sits compared to each other is fine and is a good thing to have. Is this something you should take for is this something you should take as legit as the word of law? No. Are we going to see people at here scrim low level 10 through 20 only? No, that's cringe. Maybe in the future that won't be so cringe, but right now looty divs are fresh. It's fine to ask for scrims at certain looty div levels. At least for a little bit. The rules for this are clearly spelled out on the Twitter page, which is lower_level_Splatoon. Because there is some confusion. What is low level? How do I make this list? Why am I on this list? I remember there were some times in the top 100 where Destiny Troops was on this list, and I was like, wait a minute, we won low ink like months ago. Like, we're banned from all these low level tournaments. Why are we on here? So it's clearly defined within the tweets. It basically just says you play in one low ink. You either complete a low ink, and that qualifies you to be on this list, or you play low ink plus a looty set, a minnow cup plus a looty set, or minnow and low ink. So basically you have to play in 2 of 3 things last month to qualify for low level, this low level list. And that was a low ink, looty set, or minnow cup. 2 of those 3 qualified you for that. Synergy did not play in these tournaments. They did play a looty set, so that's why Synergy is not on this list specifically. Synergy is, I would consider Synergy to be a low level team. But they didn't do enough to outright qualify for it, so that's why they're not on this list. Makes sense. It's nice when things are transparent and there's an understanding of why things happen, and it's also nice when somebody is doing a stream and saying, hey, if you got any questions about this, come on and ask. Transparency is always a good thing. So let's take a look at this list, this top 50 list. First off, I love that it is not just a automatic knee-jerk reaction to low ink. Oh, Citrus made number 2, so that means they should be number 1 here because the team that won low ink is banned. So Citrus automatically at the number 1 spot. Oh, who finished number 3? San Diego? Automatically number 3. And you just plug in here and there. No. This one, I like this. It's actually well thought out. The number 1 team in low level is actually not Citrus. It is the University of California San Diego Esports Triton Splatoon, who I just call San Diego whenever they're on stream for simplicity's sake. In fact, interestingly enough, Citrus is not even the number 2 team. That belongs to the Fighting Dipping Sauces themselves, the Evening Chickens. Very suspicious. Popgun, didn't Citrus beat the University of California in low ink losers finals? That happened, right? So how come San Diego's above Citrus? It's all about looty. Remember, the University of California beat in loving memory of EXO in week 1 of Ludi, and that was one of the biggest upsets that we saw in the entire Ludi's in all of Ludi in week 1, and that was definitely the most eyebrow raising result that we've seen. That is a quality win. Loving memory of EXO looks to have bounced back from that loss. They handled Tidal Wave, or no, it wasn't. Yeah, I think it was Tidal Wave that they played. I get the groups mixed up, but they won that next set. So loving memory of EXO is going to be a really good team, and that San Diego win that they got, that San Diego got against loving memory of EXO, is going to be more and more impressive as the weeks go on. Thank you so much. Welcome. Hey, come on, say hello. I forgot to get water today, so
hey everybody.
Miss Popgun brought me my water. Thank you.
Welcome.
Now. Get married. It's a good thing. So Citrus is not in the number 1 here, and it all comes down to Ludi. Now, here's the question. Is it fair? Because San Diego is Div 4 and Citrus is Div 5. So in your mindset, if you win your Ludi sets in Div 4, all those wins you get are going to be more impressive on your resume than anything Citrus is going to face in Div 5, right? So if you're Div 4 and you just win your Ludi sets and do decently well in low ink, in theory, you should be doing better than all the other teams that are in Div 5. But Citrus result was strong enough that they should be mentioned up there. But that's why I'm explaining, because Citrus did outright beat San Diego in low ink. But in my opinion, and I would assume Parice agrees with this, winning a best of 9 set should hold more weight than winning a best of 3 or best of 5 tournament set. And that's clearly what's going on here. So San Diego at number 1, Evening Chickens at number 2 over Citrus, I think is kind of interesting. I have it down in my notes. The Evening Chickens, who did they play? They played Tyrant Inc., beat them 5-4, and Unknown Squids. I don't know if the Unknown Squids set was played in May or April. Again, we're just looking at April here. This is not like something that happened today. This is just a snapshot of April. So Evening Chickens have some good, very quality wins against teams that are outright banned from low ink. So that's why I would assume they got put up there, even though they finished like 5th or 6th in Ludi in low ink. Now, Evening Chickens and Citrus did not play in low ink, but still, if you look at just what teams are doing in Ludi, then you're saying, wow, Citrus at number 3 doesn't even make sense. You might think Citrus might need to be a little bit lower, but that also shows how good Citrus played in that low ink. They beat several Div 4 teams. I believe they went 3-2 against Div 4 teams. The problem is what's going to be really difficult for them to make number 1 is until a lot of these Div 4 teams get outright banned from low ink, the problem with Citrus is their wins are only going to be against other Div 5 teams, and that's going to lower them a little bit, but still being top 3 I feel like is fair. But San Diego, the number 1 team, even though Citrus can beat them, I think is fair as well. If you look at the number 4 and 5th spot in this list, we have a tie. Interesting tie. And I think this is clever. So Resilience and Geek Squids are tied at number 4. I think Resilience is the legit number 4 team here because they are above Geek Squids, even though Resilience, the letter R comes before the letter G in the English alphabet. At least I'm pretty sure about this. This is not an English, a good English podcast, so don't worry about that. But still, tied at number 4. Why is this? Well, Resilience beat Geek Squids in Ludi, and then Geek Squids turned around and beat Resilience in low ink in the winner's bracket best of 5 set. So who's better than the other? I just said Ludi should hold more weight. Yeah, but Geek Squids did a lot better in low ink than Resilience did. Sorry, not sorry. That's just the facts. So the fact that they're tied here, I can live with that. That's fine. Aqua Affinity at number 6. Again, Minnow Cup and Ludi set, which is what Aqua Affinity had. They didn't play in low ink, but they did so good in Ludi, and they seem to be doing really good in low in Minnow. Okay, they did really good in Minnow Cup, but they seem to be doing really good in Ludi as well. So them at number 6 makes a lot of sense. Spirit Incorporated at number 7, another Div 5 team. In fact, Div 5 is showing up and showing out here in this top 10. In the top 10 of this list, 4 teams are in Div 5. 4 teams are in Div 5. And 4 teams that are in Div 4 were left out of Div 5. So there you go. That's another good thing about this list, because Ludi divs come out. They are relevant for like 1, 2, maybe 3 weeks after they come out, and then they lose basically all relevancy. We can look at Ludi and be like, okay, this team should have been up, this team should have been down, and those things don't get updated. So the fact that this top list is coming out here already shows us a quick mindset of where things might be adjusted if Ludi divs were to be adjusted this quickly, at least for these couple of teams snapshot in these specific dips. But still, I like the fact that just because you're Div 4 doesn't automatically put you above. Your results do kind of bleed over and prove that you can be better than teams that are divved above you. The first team in Div 6 to make appearance on this list is Booyah X. They show up at number 23. And Insurance Agency and 60% Fish Puns, 2 other Div 6 teams, follow that right up. So Div 6 showing up and showing out here. And these teams looked really strong. 60% Fish Puns. They've won a couple of, they're 2-0 in their Ludi set so far. Obviously, they did really well knocking off some really notable teams in low ink. Booyah X made Alpha Bracket, but were quickly shown the door on Sunday, but still doesn't disregard the fact that a Div 6 team did make Alpha Bracket, the only Div 6 team we've seen do that. So Booyah X getting some credit for that as well. And both these teams, or all 3 of those teams, doing really well in their Ludi set so far. I guess an interesting thing to point out here, Mahi Mahi Monsoon, or as let me rephrase that. Mahi Mahi Monsoon. There, I said it normally, you little jackasses. Make an emote of that. I just like to emphasize the he part, okay? Okay? I like making fun of some of your guys' names. Some of you got some silly names that need to be made fun of. But still, Mahi Mahi Monsoon at number 18 here is probably scratching their head and saying, wait a minute. Splatarians are at number 8? Didn't we just beat the dog crap out of the Splatarians 8-1 in low ink beta bracket grand finals? Why is that team 10 spots above us? It's very simple. Ludi. Splatarians beat Fracture, a team we were debating putting into Div 3. Splatarians straight up beat them. That holds weight. I'm sorry. That holds a lot of weight. Once again, could you put Mahi Mahi higher than number 18? I think we'll see some good things from them on next low ink that will justify them being higher at number 18. But I think it's fair. Not to discredit. Should winning beta bracket hold more weight than qualifying for alpha bracket? I don't know if that's fair. It's 2 completely different things. The alpha bracket teams that get eliminated quickly don't get an opportunity to play in beta bracket, but they outright earned it from Swiss, either because they got 5 wins or because their opponent win percentage was a blessing for them. So I don't really know how to judge those 2 things, but Mahi at 18, I think that's fair. Version 2.0, one of the only 2 teams in Div 7 to make this list, and for version 2.0 they come in at number 37. These guys, really good Little Squid League result, although Little Squid League, at least on the sheet, was not a prerequisite to getting into this list. It was Ludi, Minnow, and Low Ink. But still, version 2.0 did really well in Gamma Bracket in Low Ink. and have been doing well in their Ludi sets. They are going to be one of the better teams in Div 7, not named Nebula Inc. So version 2.0 at number 37, showing up and showing out for all of Div 7. The other Div 7 team being Power Inc. at number 48. There are some Div 7 teams in the honorable mentions, but I don't care about honorable mentions around here. You either make the top 50 or you don't. The last team making the top 50, Irida, not iRide. In short, I like this, and I give a lot of credit to this because this is the first time I've seen one of these monthly rankings come out on the actual first day of the month. That's amazing. I don't think it's fair to expect that to happen every single month. But if you want to do these monthly ranking things, you kind of have to release them on the first, second, or third day of the month. The problem with the Western Top 50 is that they have to wait for all the tournaments to come in, and then they have to wait for everybody to submit their list and compile it. And they've been coming out like the last week of the next month. So if you were to have like for the tops, so like for April, the monthly rankings would come out like the last week of May, and people get so confused. Like, well, my team popped off in May. Well, no, it's just April. But you get in the mindset of, wait a minute, April was 3-4 weeks ago. What the hell happened in April? I don't even remember. So that they kind of lose relevancy by the time that they come out when they're so late. So something like this coming out on the first day, it's immediately relevant and immediately holds value. So that's nice to see. Again, it's not realistic to expect that to happen every single time. And I saw that's why the top 60 is on a hiatus to try to figure out how they can get those things out quicker. But when something like this is released really quick, I do want to point it out. It's a fun list to have. I'm glad it's here. Gives me more content to talk about. It gets you guys excited. And, you know, I'm sure some teams are looking at this, because I know a lot of you get butt hurt really easily, and you put the Michael Jordan meme, Pariah's didn't put me at number 1. And I took that personally. And then you use that to get whatever it takes to get you guys excited to win low ink. Go right ahead. Go knock yourself out there. But regardless, I think it's fun. It's nice to see. It gives you a snapshot of where you are with other teams for that month. That are close to you. And congrats to San Diego. Hopefully next month they'll be too good to be on this list, and they'll end up on somebody's top 50 mid-level teams in the West or something like that. I don't know. I do have a comment here since I'm wrapping this segment up. Well, I had to wrap this segment up. I'm already 30 minutes into it. What I expected to be a 10-minute segment. Ooh, looks like we have a special guest coming on to the Popcast. That I didn't actually plan out ahead of time. So let's knock out this next section and get to that, to our special guest. Let's talk about Cloudburst. And we'll talk about everything about Cloudburst. Like I said, this is going to be our first time looking at a open invite tournament as a whole, not just lower level. But we got to talk about the elephant in the room. Again, we have to talk about this. Oh my gosh, this is getting so frustrating to have this conversation up all the time. The conversation, once again, was, where was low level? Why are low-level teams not signing up for tournaments like this? First off, is this a major? Is it not a major, semi-major, a minor? I don't know. I think it was presented with the effort of trying to become a major tournament. But it was definitely a tournament that we wanted the entire community to sign up for and play in. Teams that were below Div 4, like officially below Div 4, only 2 of them signed up for this. Inkstrike Inklings at Div 5 and Rising Hope at Div 6. A very good Div 6 team, mind you, who did actually beat Inkstrike Inklings 2-1 in like the official like play-in match, I guess you could say, because this was a double elimination tournament. Winner gets to get slapped around by Radiance and then lose every other game that they play in the set in this tournament. Where was low level? That's the question people were saying. Somebody tweeted out, hey, you guys need low level. Come on. You need to support these kind of tournaments. Why didn't you play in this? Let's talk about that again. And I didn't see Twitter go crazy about this time around. Some people in the pre-show were saying, oh, this certain person tweeted out this thing or that. I didn't personally see that, so I'm not going to get outraged about something I didn't see personally. That makes no sense. So I'm just going to go off the assumption that it wasn't that big of a topic this time around that it was in like Triple G or Inkstorm 8 for that matter. But my question is, why would they sign up? Why would lower level teams come out and play in a group or double elimination tournament where they're going to be scripted to lose everything that they play in? The appeal of teams playing against other teams that are better than them. That's a good appeal. That's a very important aspect of growing as a team. It's important to get your butt kicked by teams that are slightly better than you so that you can learn what they do and you can get better and grow from it. The problem here is that lower level already has a tournament like that where they can get destroyed and still do decently well in it. It's called Low Ink. These teams that are Div 5, Div 6, Div 7, the vast majority of them play in Low Ink knowing full well that in rounds 2 through 3, they're going to get slapped silly by some other team that is also good enough to be in Low Ink. But they know at the same time they're going to have an opportunity to compete for a Gamma or a Beta bracket slot. They know in Div 5 and Div 6 they're going to get matched up with a team that's going to be, in theory, around their skill level. So they know that even though they are going to take some pretty hard losses in the middle section of the tournament, there's going to be a lot more opportunities for them to have fun and play against a team around their skill level. It's fun for them. What we need to see in tournaments like Cloudburst are more mid-level teams sign up here because they're the only ones who can at least hold a candle to some of these teams that are miles above all of them. Do we need to see Twisted Time play against Sonder? Yes, that's a good thing. That's a good opportunity for Twisted Time, even though there's no way they can beat them, to learn from them, to get a good mindset. Do we need to see Gamma Bracket Joe play against Sonder? No! That's a waste of time for everybody involved. You can't learn anything playing against a team that is so miles above you that they KO you in the first 30 seconds. What's the takeaway from that? What if you're in that situation, what do you learn? Oh, here's what you learn. They're more mechanically skilled than you. That's your story. There. Do you need to play in a tournament to learn that? No, you don't. You don't need to. And again, they can get their butts kicked otherwhere and have more fun in this situation. Here, I want to point out something. Div 4 did show up for this. Hats off to you guys. I counted 8 legit Div 4 teams that played in this tournament. Here's how they did. Look how they did in this tournament. In the double elimination stage, the winners and losers bracket of this tournament, they all played in the games they played against teams that were technically a div above them, 3 through X, something like that. Their record per game in the winner-loser side of the bracket, 0 wins, 26 losses. Damn! That's... That is rough, dude. That is rough. Let's look at Beta Bracket because all those teams made Beta Bracket. I believe if you lost in losers round 3, you qualified for beta bracket, which is nice. It's good to have like that consolation bracket. I know Good Guys Win. I'm really dating myself by saying this. Was a great tournament that had like that consolation. They call it like the Little Judd bracket or something. But the beta bracket is always a nice little consolation for anything. I implore any double elimination tournament. I know it's extra work, but if you want lower level teams to sign up for it, having something like this is a nice little feature for sure. But look at how these Div 4 teams did in beta bracket. Well, if you take out Twice, who won this whole tournament, and to be fair, we are going to include Twice in everything that we do, but if you take them out, after beta bracket, Div 1 against teams that were better than them, 1 win, 35 losses. Wow. Wow, Div 4. Now, I'm not going to call out you guys by person, but I'm looking at some of these matches. Div 4, come on. You guys got to do a little bit better than that, all right? This isn't just match up issues. Some of you need to step up and get some, at least threaten to get at least more than just 1 win here. That's not acceptable, Div 4. Step up. The 1 win, in case you're curious, goes out to Thimbo IHOP, who took 1 game off of Zig Zagoon, which was a Div 2 to Div 3 pickup. I believe Ali was playing with some Salt to Pepper guys, Ali at the Crustacean Crusaders. So Thimbo IHOP took 1 game off of that. So congratulations, you are the team that got the 1 win. And it wasn't pretty there on out. Now, let's put Twice back into the equation. Twice is a Div 4 team, and they popped off, and we're going to give them a quick shout-out for popping off. In beta bracket, they played the Grillers. I guess the Grillers dropped because they're disqualified on this thing. They beat Healthy Diet Food Groups 3-1. Nice win. They beat Aesthetic 3-1. Nice win. And they beat Zig Zagoon 3-1. Very nice, Twice. I see you. So let's include Twice. They are a Div 14. So here's the official. If you include Twice, that 1-35 record goes to 10-38. So there you go. Twice is the outlier there. Hats off to them. Attaboy. Way to represent all of Div 4. But my goodness, why did lower level teams not sign up for this tournament? Well, if you're a Div 5 through 8 team and you saw Div 4 basically just got spanked on Sunday, they're probably thinking, you know what, Sunday, I'm religious. I got to go to church. I can't. Sorry, I can't make this tournament. I didn't know this tournament was going on. I didn't know. It's, oh my gosh. Now, honestly, I feel like the main issue why low level teams weren't signing up for this, I don't think it had anything to do with Sunday, because low level has proven that they'll come out for stuff on Sunday. Ash Cup was the first tournament to do it, and they got a lot of teams that played in Ash Cup. Minnow Cup's done some Sunday stuff. Little Squid League's done Sunday stuff. Obviously, Low Inc. Is a Saturday and Sunday tournament. So low level will turn out for Sunday tournament. So I don't think that was a deterrent. I think more so it was just people didn't know about this tournament. Which I knew about it because I plugged it when I did grand finals of Low Inc. It's something we kind of plugged. I feel like it was advertised fine. In-game TV pushed it out. IPL did our part to push it out. I think I mentioned it a couple of times on the Popcast. Like it was like the preview kind of thing of like what tournaments are coming up. So it wasn't like it was a hidden thing. People were saying they didn't know about it, and that's fine. But I don't really think that's a marketing issue there. I feel like the word when it got out. I think the main issue with this though was Ludi. If you look at the number of matches that were played yesterday in Ludi, I didn't look at the exact matches, but I looked at how many people reported scores. Keep in mind, sometimes people report the score twice, like the winner and loser. Just one person needs to report the score. I don't think it needs to be confirmed or anything. But just people that reported scores yesterday for Ludi was 32. So a maximum of 32 teams played a Ludi set yesterday. That's a maximum of 16 matches. That's a lot. And that was the main reason why my team didn't play in Cloudburst is that we had to do a Ludi match on Sunday. We could have done Cloudburst and the Ludi match, but that's too much for us personally. We'd rather focus on the Ludi. So I personally would point the finger more so at Ludi not being a deterrent for teams not playing in this. But again, guys, the thought that, oh, low levels, you guys aren't supporting the scene because you're not signing up for this tournament. I want to point something out. When I checked in on Twitch for this tournament, in-game TV had over 300 people watching it live. On the flip side, Kiver's stream had over 250 people watching Radiance live. And that doesn't include, I don't know if Sindao and Brian, people from Bed, I don't know if anybody from Torture was streaming, or anybody else on like these big name tournaments were streaming, but so many other people were streaming that tournament. So you can't just look at, okay, only 300 people watching in game. No, a close to 500 plus, possibly more. I don't want to just blow up numbers, but I know personally at least 500 plus were watching Cloudburst live, whether through in-game TV or Kiver or somebody else streaming. Who do you think are the ones watching the tournament? It's Low Level, you morons. Low Level is supporting this tournament. You don't have to play in this tournament to support it. You can watch it. You can be excited about it. Hey, my favorite streamer is playing in this tournament. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to support that person. They are supporting it. You don't have to show up and get spanked by these teams to support your community. My goodness. What is the takeaway here? We can say there's two ways of looking at this. Oh, only 33 teams signed up. This community's dying. Whoa, 500 plus people were watching Splatoon tournament live on Twitch yesterday. It's the same story. You can look at it how you want to look at it. All right. But would it be nice to have big, massive tournaments with a gazillion teams like Smash? Yeah, that would be awesome. Like Smash Brothers gets like 1,000 people for majors. Of course, those people know they're going to get destroyed. I get that. But come on, guys. It doesn't need to be a finger point at Low Level every freaking time there is a major. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. Can we please stop that? Please. That's not going to make them want to sign up for these tournaments because they are supporting it. And when we're just slapping them in the face, you guys aren't helping at all. Really? Really? I digress. I could go on a rant for this forever. And one thing I do want to point out, and I understand the logistics behind this, Low Level does not like double limb or groups because they know those tournament formats are scripted for certain teams to fail, and they know if they sign up, they are going to be the teams that are scripted to fail. Low Level, though, freaking loves Speed Ladder. Like, Speed Ladder is so awesome for if you want to get a massive number of teams. Speed Ladder is great. The problem with Speed Ladder is A, you have to know you're going to get a ton of teams sign up for it. B, Smash GG, I think, is the only site that can legit do that successfully, and Smash GG sucks, man. BNS obviously has the capability, but from what I know, you have to know somebody who knows somebody, or Battlefy has the capability, but I feel like you have to know somebody who knows somebody to do a speed ladder on Battlefy, because I feel like it's a feature that's not open to everybody. That was the rumor as to how, you remember BNS was able to do speed ladder. I feel like the rumor is that somebody at BNS just had the right connection to get it done on Battlefy. So speed ladder, it's not something you can always do, but that Low Level loves that, and I just know the logistics of that are extremely impossible. But when you're scripted to just lose double limb or groups, Low Level just doesn't like that. I understand, but regardless, we're getting off this soapbox. Let's talk about some other things that happened in this tournament. Mainly, some top level teams that I never really get to talk about. First off, Let's talk about Sonder for a minute. Because Sonder was that one team everyone was like, whoa, 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 whoa. They won Div 1 last season. Why are they not in Div X? Well, I wonder if that plays into Sonder's mind. And I wonder if how they played in this tournament would bump them up to Div X. Look at the teams that they beat. Arctic Moon. No surprise. They should be beating Arctic Moon. Universal. Squidding Good. Grape Juice. All of those wins coming as 2-0 sweeps of Div 2 to Div X teams. I believe Sonder finished in 4th place, getting knocked out by Torture in loser's bracket, which was a best of 5 set, and they'd lost to Friends earlier in winner's bracket. But still, Sonder with a lot of really good wins here. Actually, the Arctic Moon one was a 2-1, not a 2-0 sweep, excuse me. Sonder making a really strong case for themselves right here. The problem, though, is can what you do affect your ranking from 3 weeks in the past? It can't. No, it can't. But if you're Sonder, and we've talked about this with low-level teams, it applies to high level as well. If you actually put stock in what that number is next to your name or that X next to your name, it doesn't guarantee you anything. Grape Juice did not go into the set versus Sonder with a 20-point lead before the game even started because they were Div X and Sonder's Div 1. It's 0-0 as soon as the game starts, and Sonder flexed on them here with a nice 2-0 win. So Sonder needs results like this. And this is a good result. 4th place in a Cloudburst tournament is fantastic. And that's something I definitely wanted to point out. Climb is another interesting team here. A team with a lot of people that are keeping an eye on this team. With FT Win sitting at the top of the North America throne, with the crown of dead kings laying at their feet, a long list of North American teams that have held the title of we're the second best North America team that have also disbanded because they can't touch FT Win when it matters the most. Is Climb the next team to challenge the throne? Well, we know Starburst is up there, and Starburst is, I think Starburst can challenge it legitly, but is Climb like another legit contender? Are they like the next Jackpot, this team that are just kind of this new attempt at forming a new monster to try to knock them down? Well, as far as I'm concerned, this is my first actual opportunity to see Climb in action here. The only team to beat Climb in both winners and losers was Torture, the team that finished in 2nd place in this tournament, and the only team to give Radiance an actual run for their money. Climb also beat Chew It Mafia, the Healthy Diet Food Groups, Casuals, XD, and Friends. So a couple of pickup teams there. So the question is, what did we learn from Climb? From this tournament, not a whole lot. I think we're going to learn more about Climb when they play Starburst. They're scheduled to play Starburst this week in Ludi, but they haven't played their week 1 or week 2 matches, at least from what I saw on the Ludi set. So I don't know if they'll actually play Starburst this week or not, but that will be more telling for where Climb is in the spectrum of things in this community, the higher epsilon of things in this community, more so than what they did in Cloudburst here. For Bed, I feel like the team Bed, this was a strong showing for them. Obviously, they finished in 3rd place. They were the 1 win away from beating Torture, and they actually swept Torture in losers in the winners bracket. So the only team to beat Bed was Radiance by 3-0 and Torture by 3-2. They beat everybody else. Close win against Arctic Moon. Coca-Cola team, which beat Azure, they beat them. And I guess Bed didn't play any loser bracket games because they were they made it to winners final. So for Team Bed, again, same kind of story. Who's going to be that next European team to kind of challenge Radiance? It looks like it should be Bed. The problem, though, is that Knights of Queen beat Bed pretty convincingly in Ludi 5-1 this last week as well. Knights of Queen not playing in this tournament, so it's kind of hard to gauge those kinds of things, but still, Bed showed up for the teams that showed up here, Bed represented themselves really well. Obviously, the 3-0 loss to Radiance isn't the most, it's kind of concerning, but at the end of the day, I mean, everybody basically lost 3-0 to Radiance, so it is what it is. If we could talk about Radiance for a moment, the question here is, are you surprised at this? Obviously, Universal swept, Friends swept, Grape Juice swept, Bed swept. Torture gave them the best run for their money. Torture being a pickup team of Ricky, Kiwi, Leafy, Sleepy, and Jeepy, I guess, where the other, I forget who the last one was, but just a really strong pickup team that did really well. But Radiance, I mean, there was just nobody here to challenge Radiance at all. I mean, there's no FT win. There's none of these other strong, no Starburst. Knights of Queen, with what they did against Bed, it'd be interesting to see Knights of Queen against Radiance. I don't think they could straight up beat them, but still, if you're playing strong, if you're a hot team, you can have an opportunity to do some damage there. But the teams that can not just challenge Radiance, but have traditionally beaten Radiance, just weren't here. And I think that's where more of the frustration should be. The question should be, why wasn't lower level signing up? Well, why weren't the teams that could have won the $306.76? Why didn't those teams sign up? That's my question. But Radiance did what, I mean, when you're the number one team, you do what you're supposed to do. I feel like I think Climb was officially the number 2 seed here. And Torture obviously proved they were the legit number 2 seed. Torture beating Climb twice, Polar Knight, getting revenge on Bed, beating Sonder as well. And again, the only team to actually make Radiance think, oh, we're not completely unstoppable here. And again, maybe, Torture won that first game of that grand final set. Again, we talk about this a lot with Low Ink. It kind of applies here as well, even though Radiance is battle tested. The fact that when you win winners finals, you have to wait around a little bit versus, and you coming from the winner's side versus the team coming in from the loser's side who's been playing a lot and they're hyped. They're coming off a really close set, 5-3 in loser's bracket. They're coming in with a lot of momentum. Usually we see that team win game 1, and then the team from loser's bracket says, thanks for slapping me in the face. I'm awake now. Let's fight for real. And that's kind of what happened here. Torture got the KO in game 1. I believe it was Mako Mart Splat Zones, and then just 4-1 the rest of the set right there. So for Torture, pickup teams, I'm hesitant to say it seems like pickup teams were the future of North America for one point, but we're starting to see more, and maybe it's just because it's Ludi season, but we're starting to see more projects, I guess you could say, name brand teams showing up and starting to be a little bit more legit and consistent in their play versus just, hey, at here, 3 other +1 players. Let's try to make a run at this thing. Not to say I don't like pickups, but me personally, I'm old school. I like seeing old, legit name brand teams trying to grow. You see a lot of that in low level. I would hate if low level turned into just a bunch of pickup teams signing up for all those tournaments. It would lose value for me, but still, Torture being a really strong pickup team for what they played in this tournament. I think I saw something where some of those members didn't even know the tournament was going on until they got asked to play in it. I might be thinking of somebody else, but still wanted to point that out. For the rest of this tournament, I feel like it went as scripted. I don't think anything crazy unusual happened here. Maybe Friends beating Sonder 2-1, maybe. Maybe, I don't know. Azure is kind of interesting because we don't see them. They don't play in Ludi, so we don't see them on a weekly basis. I feel like Azure is a strong team. We just don't really get to see a whole heck of a lot out of them. They beat Frostburn, but lost to the Coca-Cola pickup team. So I think for the rest of this tournament, it went as scripted. In general, the final prize pool was $306.76. We need 70 cents. We need more tournaments like this. We need more tournaments like this. Mid majors, whatever you want to call them. It's nice to have. And the fact, my opinion, just because it had 30 teams doesn't make it a bad tournament. again, it got a ton of views on Twitch. It had a lot of people talking about it. It got any opportunity, us, the casual fan of high level Splatoon, gets to see top level talent playing, and it's with some A-list commentators and some A-list production crew on the streaming. It's fun to see. It's good for the entire community to have things like this. Would it be nice if more teams signed up for it? Of course. Of course, don't get me wrong. It would be fantastic. But at the end of the day, if you can just get me 2 good teams in grand finals, I'll get my popcorn. I'll sit on my couch. I'll watch that on Twitch. I'll watch that all day. That's entertainment, and that's quality entertainment that we all need to see. With that being said, let us welcome in an impromptu guest onto the Popcast, who I just asked in the pre-show if you'd come on because I had a lot of questions. Welcome in Kbot to the Popcast. Kbot, how you doing today?
Hi there. I'm doing all right. So the past few days of the weekend, I've gotten like 5 hours or less of sleep. I just slept for like 11 hours. So I'm like feeling pretty all right today, other than like any other day for the past couple of days. I also don't know in recent memory when the last time I slept for 11 hours was. So yeah, it feels pretty nice.
Winter finals for you.
Finals already happened for me. So they finished up. I was done as of Thursday morning at 4:30 in the morning was when I submitted my final exam. My final.
So you are done for the year.
Correct.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. I will say I'm taking a few summer semester classes that start on the 12th of this month. So I don't have a lot of time to just kind of sit around and take a break. But yeah, I will say the final week of the semester was not a fun one. After a not fun semester for me overall. So I took like 18 hours. It was rough. All online, sitting from your computer, sitting there at your desk. You feel bad about going out and going places, or at least I do. And yeah, and it's just easier to work, at your desk where you don't have to wear a mask. Everywhere else you go, you've got to wear a mask. So,
I'm really thankful that I'm not in college during
you
this.
Should be.
Because
you should be.
I had a hard enough time understanding anything when I was sitting in front of the teacher in the front row, the professor, much less listening to it on Zoom, knowing full well that I'm just going to be looking at my second monitor the whole time playing Balloons Tower Defense or something like that.
Much less rolling out of bed 5 minutes before the class starts, firing up your computer, hopping on the Zoom meeting, having an American history lecture ramble on in the background while you're watching Twitter or responding to messages on Discord that you missed or whatever. Yeah, it was a great time.
Well, see, that's how I do the Popcast. I just wake up, I put on a shirt. I've never worn shorts or pants for the Popcast. That's my secret that I'm revealing right here. Hey, let's
anyway.
Cloudburst, the name Cloudburst. What is that?
Okay, so I might as well just launch into like the entire history behind this event. Because an endgame event in the spring was planned and tossed around from like December. And originally, like for about 3-4 months of time, we're planning on making something a little bit larger at Endgame just in general. And schedules ended up not really lining up. Plans kind of fell through there. And so what ended up happening was like, hey, we were planning on running an event on this date. So let's just run a Splatoon tournament. Originally, I would have preferred to take the Saturday. I was under the assumption that there'd be another event happening on the Saturday, so we opted for the Sunday. And I basically just said, hey, you remember that old SQSS format? I'm just going to copy and paste that, and we're just going to run it. So the ideal would have been approximately on the order of 96 teams. That was the team cap set up for the tournament. I would have been able to work with anywhere from like 64 to 80 some, 90 some. And it would have been a shorter group stage, groups of 6 teams. It's 5 rounds, 2.5 hours. And then it would go immediately into 32 team single elimination brackets. And the entire tournament would last about 6 hours. The name was Cloudburst because I didn't want to hype this one up as much as an Inkstorm. You know, we tend to pull out the Inkstorm name whenever we really want to push or really want to run a major. You know, like Inkstorm in my mind is like the major, or you know, or the super major. Cloudburst for me was kind of another tournament. You know, like I said, I'm kind of equating it to the SQSS, where obviously, you know, a lot of the appeal of that was it was more of a monthly sort of a basis thing, and this is kind of just a one-off. But at the same time, like it had a similar format. It meant to fill similar shoes, right? Of just being an open tournament in a community and in a scene where we don't have a lot of those weekend, you know, large open tournaments. And so Cloudburst was a name that we used one time previously for another tournament as a part of the Splatoon Anniversary Invitational back in early Splatoon 1. It was a 1-year initiative that took 4 tournament organizing groups at a time, had them run qualifiers, and you earned basically like, it was a small little circuit. You earned circuit points based on your placement in those 4 tournaments, and that qualified you for a top 16 invitational. Endgame TV's tournament for that was Cloudburst because we didn't want to attach the Inkstorm name to it. So I was like, you know what? We've got this brand sitting around. Might as well use it. So that's where it came from.
That makes sense. What you said, this is not a major. I guess I guess it doesn't really matter what we call these majors, super majors, anything like that. What people kind of concern with what a tournament is for high level teams is the prize pool, which for this one ended up being $306. My question is, can you kind of explain to people where that initial prize pot comes from?
So in most cases, it is tournament organizers putting up their own money. Right. In the vast majority of cases. In this case, I actually got 2 DMs from people asking if they could donate to the prize pool before I had even mentioned there being a prize at all. Right? I just didn't mention a prize. Mostly because I knew that I'd like try to figure something out. I had something kind of in the works. And you know, because I wasn't about to put up my own money. Sorry, Splatoon. You get enough of my time. You don't need my money too. So, you know, and I think Nitro probably feels very similar there. And we didn't want to really bother with, you know, Endgame TV resources or something like that. So I got 2 DMs from 2 different people asking to, you know, how they could contribute to the prize pool. And so that's kind of what kicked it off. You know, we started with a $200 prize pool. So, you know, thank you to those of you that contributed. I think we shouted it out like once on Twitter and then maybe once or twice during the broadcast. It wasn't meant to be like a super hard and heavy push for, you know, that thing. And mostly, again, because the tournament wasn't meant to be like this, you know, super hype, super, you know, energetic tournament. It was kind of just meant to be a more normal online open semi-big tournament. And so, you know, we didn't shove the prize pool that hard, and that's eventually kind of the number that we got to was, you know, 306 after fees and such were taken out.
Obviously you would have loved to have more teams signed up for this. You said the cap was 96, and I think the official number was like 33 or something like that signed up. Let me give you a platform. You've heard my thoughts for the past hour, obviously. What are your thoughts on the lack of teams that signed up? Is it low level that didn't sign up? Was it not enough high level, mid level teams that signed up? Like, where does there need to be a finger that needs to be pointed at somewhere? I guess is my question.
In my mind, the finger needs to be pointed at everyone. You know, it's not really low level. It's not really mid level. It's not really high level. It's not top level. It's kind of everybody that didn't show up for the event. And I think you kind of hit on it when, you know, you're talking about top level. And maybe, you know, we can talk a little bit about the top level argument in a bit, specifically Jared's tweet. But I mean, just across the board, I had a lot less teams than I expected. And to your point, a lot of them were playing in, Ludi matches, perhaps. I know a handful of teams didn't sign up because, they had players that were playing in exams or had exams, and so it was kind of unfortunate timing with that in that regard. And I get it, quite honestly, I was not at the top of my game as a tournament organizer yesterday, given the fact that I just come off of an exam. So I get that too. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think one of the things to consider is a lot of the time, you need to have 4 players in these tournaments, right? And that makes it a lot more unique than a Smash Brothers tournament or something like that, where you're just signing up individually. You're relying on the schedule as a team of 4 players, not just 1 player. So the second that one person has an exam, it's like, okay, well, now we either have to find a sub and play like not to the level that we would expect, or we just don't play in the tournament at all. So probably a lot of teams opted for that route. They were all like, yeah, well, I kind of have other things to do. And so it's really across the board. I was talking informally with some of the members of FT when they weren't feeling ready for the event, so they decided not to play. Because and I think to peek behind the curtain here as well, one of the things that FT Win is always concerned about is their own reputation. If they enter a tournament and they half make an appearance or they're not at the top of their game, the second they lose, the entire community is going to erupt in flames because FT Win lost, but in reality they just weren't playing as well as they normally do, right? So they weren't ready. WLR had exams, I think. I don't know where Starburst was, to be honest. So some of the higher level teams as well just kind of didn't sign up for the event. And it really just goes down the lane. Now, what are the other things to pick up on is the low level argument. And to that, you were talking earlier about, well, the low level teams are just going to lose. And yes, they would just lose. But if there's a significant number of low level teams in the tournament, then they're going to get good matches. Right? Like as a low level team, if you're going to encourage other people to sign up for the event, then you're going to get at least one good match in groups, which, 1 or 2 good matches in groups, what you're kind of guaranteed in the low ink Swiss stage anyway, right?
Yeah, that's kind of my kind of argument is, yeah, you're going to get matched up with teams that are going to be around your skill level. And that happened here. Twisted Time played Resilience. Ink Strike played Rising Hope. But those are, I guess in their mind, they're thinking those are matches we can get anywhere else anyways.
Which is true. But, it's so, I think part of it is it's the combination of you get to have the experience versus higher level teams, which I know at the mid level right now is something a lot of people are asking for. They want that experience versus higher level teams, you know. And so even if it's a little bit more of a wash, they can, try to look back at those VODs and take a look at that. For low level, that's playing up into mid level, right? How do we stack against the teams that are winning midway right now? What can we learn from them, right? You don't need to always look, at the tippy top of the ladder. You can look at the next run, right? So it's a combination of that. It's a combination of, can you get good matches? And then, the original format had 3 brackets, each with 32 teams apiece. So there would have been something to kind of aim for there. And I understand, the last place of the tournament probably wouldn't have had a fun time against the 65th seed in the tournament in a 96-team event.
Well, that's any format. The last team is just the last team. Yeah, there's nothing you can do about that.
There's only so much you can do for the ends. Right. But I think, with a more rounded out distribution of teams in general, it still would have been a good event. And that's one of the things as a tournament organizer is I can only provide the platform for these things to happen. At the end of the day, I can't force all of the high level teams to sign up or all of the low level teams to sign up. I can't force that. It's like, as you're looking through the teams that are already registered to sign up for the event, somebody's got to be the first team to do it at your skill level. Somebody's got to be the one to start going out of their way and maybe asking around, their friends, hey, on other teams, like, hey, you guys thinking about signing up for this thing? Because, at some point, what can I do? I can't do everything, what am I going to do? Seed my tournament with like floated pools so that only like the top 12 teams of the tournament ever play each other and only the bottom 12 teams of the tournament ever play each other? No, that's not really like a tournament. Everyone should get a shot at the first place gold medal, right? So, there's only so much that I can really do to make a format that is suitable for all players, to make the largest tournament possible. And frankly, like, the onus then becomes on the teams on whether or not they sign up, right? And I can't force lower level teams to sign up. The format, again, was identical to SQSS. It didn't have the Squidward's name, so it didn't draw like some of the more, casual, competitive, newer audience to the game. But the format was the same. So
yeah, I've been critical in the past of formats where it's groups and then day 2 is a single elimination bracket at like 10 a.m. or something like that. So I feel like the format here was good. The original format of what it was going to be was fair. Groups into everybody gets a bracket is that I think that's fair across the board. One thing I kind of mentioned, and you said you had a comment on it in chat, was speed ladder. Again, I kind of highlighted. I understand there's a lot of logistics go into making speed ladder for any tournament or organization. But what were your comments on speed ladder?
So, I guess first thing, I made the switch to double elimination in my head at 2 a.m. the day before the tournament, or the night before the tournament. Because I was sitting there looking at the timers and I was like, all right, well, a 32, 33, or like, I knew I'd be right on the fringe of 32 or 33 teams based on the signups that I had. And so I had promised a 6-hour tournament. And frankly, I was going to give people a 6-hour tournament. Double elimination lasted almost exactly 6 hours. Mm-hmm. If it would have gone to a reset, it would have been just over the 6-hour mark. And I knew that in the back of my head. So anything about like, groups, I think groups would have been weird because you either have 8 teams per group or 4 teams per group at this point, not like the 6 teams per group that I was really hoping for, just to kind of get more easily fed into bracket. And so, it was kind of difficult to nail the timing just right. And, a 4-team group, to your point about low-level teams, 4-team groups are going to be abysmal, right? Those are going to be pretty much decided from the get-go. The first seed is going to get out, the lowest seed is going to get eliminated, and maybe there's some fighting between 2 and 3. Like, that's just what it is. That was kind of the original pivot to double elimination, in case people are curious about that. Is I knew it would last about 6 hours. I kind of didn't want to get creative with anything else because I was like, all right, well, at this point, it's 2 a.m. I'm feeling a little defeated. I'm just going to say, let's just run a double elim tournament. To the point of ladders, in your original question, ladders are logistically painful for a lot of reasons. As you mentioned, Smash EG hypothetically can run those. They are difficult to run on the Smash EG site for the sole reason that there is a lot of custom built stuff specifically for Speed Ladder on Smash EG, and that's not really getting updated very frequently. So any kind of hiccups with the format right now can't really be accommodated for. The other thing is on Battlefy, as you mentioned, it's kind of like, you got to know somebody. And so ATV was able to do it. But the thing with ladder in general is that, you can't get a solid ranking of teams at the end of the tournament. The number 1 team at the end of the ladder on the standings is probably not the number 1 team in skill of the tournament. As a matter of fact, it's probably the team that it's probably the highest level team that played the most matches. That's the number 1. That gets the gold medal. So, when you're trying to host something for a prize pool or something like that, ladders are kind of inconvenient. And the only way to combat that is to take an extremely large top cut bracket, or you take a 32 or 64 team single elimination bracket out of that ladder and you have them play. And now you're looking at an 8-hour tournament that's split up across 2 days.
Right.
So to make things work, it's difficult to just make the ladder work. And that's one of the reasons why, Swiss is kind of a medium between, something a little bit more conventional and a little bit more like ladder. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, in order to get a proper number one, it would just take way too long.
What is now? Every format people complain about. I want your opinion as one of the top TOs in this community. What is the one format that gets the least amount of complaints? Is it groups into single limb?
I don't know. I could not tell you what gets the least amount of complaints. So everything has its pros and cons, right? A lot of people like double elimination. Now, yesterday, to my mind, was proof that you should not like double elimination. Because I had 33 teams, and the tournament probably felt for a lot of the teams participating that it was slow. Because it was an imbalanced bracket. It was not a clean, even cut. And so different parts of the bracket got ahead of others and started making delays, and teams had to wait for matches. And it's like, well, I can't do anything here, guys. Like, this is just the way it works. So Swiss actually has a similar problem where you have to wait on everybody else to finish their match.
Yeah.
And that can be mitigated with the pressure of like a play all 3 or a play all 5. But also at the same time, the problem with Swiss there as well is, well, the second that a team has a DC, then they have to replay a game, and now it's taking even more time. And so now you're waiting for like 5 to 15 minutes between each individual match. A lot of teams don't like to do. And then, so, personally, the more I think about it, the more I think that a simple round robin group stage is better, because at least the delays in each of one of those groups are compartmentalized, right? If one group gets a little bit behind, it only affects that group, and it doesn't really impact the rest of the tournament. So that, some groups are going to get done ahead of others. Then you can wait on the brackets to be announced and published at some odd time whenever I announce those.
With groups, you have more control over groups in Double M. You have more control over like who plays who, to some extent. I think Challenges Swiss might be more clean, but Battlefy Swiss is you seed round 1, and then round 2, Battlefy just pulls everything out of its butt from there on out, and like number 1 versus 2 could play each other in round 2 on Battlefy.
That's the way Swiss works.
Yeah.
I mean that's the way it is on almost every platform, actually. You're, as a tournament organizer, you don't know what the matches are going to be for the next round until all the matches are done and you hit that generate button, right? And so that makes some things on like a broadcast a little bit more difficult, because you can't predict which matches you're going to want to see. And so from a production side of things, it makes things a little bit painful. And by the way, for the reason, I also think that groups is going to just run faster than Swiss, because Swiss, the tournament is compounding all of its possible delays, whereas groups, those delays are going to be spread out between the groups, and therefore, maybe it'll only be a difference of 15, 20, 25 minutes, but actually that's quite a long time from what I've learned in terms of Splatoon players' minds of how long we're waiting.
Yes.
So, cutting down a little bit more on that wait time in groups, I think, is the probably best option. Swiss is going to give you more guaranteed close matches. I think groups, if seeded properly, can do about the same.
I'm glad that you mentioned that you wouldn't run a tournament with 3 or 4 teams in a group, because there's so many lower level tournaments that do groups that are just like 20 groups, and there's like 3 or 4 teams in each single group, and it's like it's
for the record,
frustrating with that.
I was the one that actually suggested that format for SOS after they figured out that double elimination was taking too long, and I think it works beautifully there for the reason that it's quick, it's dirty, it's a weekly, right?
Yes,
that's
for SOS it works. SOS is great. SOS is right. I think is a really important tournament that we have on a weekly basis. I was talking more so for about lower level tournaments that are like, we're doing groups and then not a lot of teams sign up for it. And like, well, we're going to double down and stick with groups, even though one group might only have 2 freaking teams in it or something like that. So yeah. I'm glad other TOs listening to this, Kbot made the adjustment. You can too. You don't have to stick to a format if it's not going to work.
Right. And again, the only reason why I went double elimination because I knew it would last 6 hours. If there was a way that I could find like some groups format or something a little better to get to 6 hours, I could. But frankly, at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, I was not feeling great enough to do that. So you got double elimination.
Wrapping this up, this completely impromptu. Usually, when I have somebody on the podcast, I send them a list of questions ahead of time, like a day or two. But we were
Yeah.
playing this out like 20 minutes ago. So thank
Uh-huh.
you for coming on that. Give me just your general thoughts on the actual play in the tournament itself. Did any team surprise you? Do you feel like this just went as scripted? What were your takeaway from the actual teams that played in this tournament?
Uh, I think a lot of it was pretty expected. I think the largest unexpected point was Torture. Um, Coming in as a pickup, I will say I heavily underseeded the pickups that played in the event. Torture was one of those teams that I heavily underseeded, not because I thought that they weren't good, but because I thought that, okay, well, it's a pickup roster. Don't know how much they've been playing together, so gonna give them a little low. And somewhat surprisingly, they played pretty well, especially for a lot of players that have come under fire recently for perhaps not playing to their skill level, not playing to their teammates' skill level, things like that. And so, props to them for coming up to the event and showing up. And indeed, as you mentioned, playing pretty well against Radiance too. A lot of time it's kind of weird because in finals, you look at things with an analytical eye and you go, oh, this is kind of like, this isn't the best Splatoon that could be played, right? But actually, like, as I was half watching finals, the Splatoon gameplay actually looked pretty good overall. By that I mean few mistakes actually being made. And so, I could probably go on a whole tangent about, mistakes that could be made. But I think overall the gameplay was good. But the expected winner won. And I think that was the point specifically of Jared's tweet that kind of sparked the whole higher level where you at, is because from Jared's perspective, and I want to kind of make this clear for especially viewers of a low level podcast. The highest level in the game consists of like 4 teams. Those teams are FT Win and Starburst. Then you could argue there's a little bit of a gap. And then there's Radiance and WLR. And then there's another gap. And then there's the rest of the teams in +1. That's your Climbs, that's your Beds, that's your all of these other teams. So the highest level of the game consists of about 4 teams right now. And even then, FT Win and Starburst are probably going to beat Radiance right now about 90% of the time because Radiance doesn't have like a very strong identity, in my opinion. Radiance is struggling a little bit. So when Jared makes a tweet saying, hey, why aren't there more teams at high level? He's talking about that high level. He's talking about those 4 teams. He's talking about why can't Bed challenge me? Why can't Climb challenge me? Why can't, Pattaya is a team obviously just disbanded, but that team had promise. That team had hope. You looked at that roster, you were like, wow, maybe they actually have something going here. And then they just weren't fully able to do that. So, his point is less like antagonizing the mid-level of Midway, perhaps. And I think it's more antagonizing the +1 teams that just can't challenge the highest level of the game. Now, also, obviously, in an ideal world, the teams out of Midway would start to, pick up steam there as well. But at the same time, the highest level of the game, again, has about 4 teams. And it's pretty cut and dry. If FT Win and Starburst are running the tournament, you're going to get FT Win versus Starburst in Grands. In like 70% of cases. So that's kind of the thing I think overall that in the motivation behind that tweet.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed out the gap in high level because that was something I talked about on my last episode was Starburst beat Rose 5-0 and everyone was clowning on Rose and not like, look, not all X rank is the same here. And just because
Correct.
Rose lost to Starburst doesn't mean Rose is a bad team by any stretch of the imagination.
Sure.
There is just that you talk about your pyramid. I said on top of your pyramid is another spire about 2 miles high where all the rest of like the upper echelon, the super high teams are or something like that. Wrapping this up, because I do got to go to work soon. Give us, I know you can't say anything specifically, but are there at least conversations being had about lands coming back to some extent?
Yeah, I mean, what I will say is that we're keeping options open. We're kind of we're monitoring things as best we can. A lot of the decisions, for specifically at Endgame, we work a lot with hosting these much larger conventions off of Smash Brothers tournaments too, right? It's not just like the little room of Splatoon people, right? That we're considering a much larger overall event, and so we're keeping an eye on things as well as those Smash Brothers organizers to really see what we can do moving forward. We're just gonna kind of have to play that by ear, and we'll see where that goes.
Go ahead and plug yourself a little bit in case nobody knows who Kbot is. When's the next episode of Talk Speed Up coming out?
So my name's Kbot. Popcast, thanks for having me, even if it was a little impromptu. I do a lot of things for the community outside of playing the game. So I am a tournament organizer. I work a lot with Endgame TV. We don't host a lot of tournaments. We try to go for much higher quality over quantity. So we don't host a lot of tournaments typically. Find that on Twitter at Endgame TV. Endgame_TV, sorry. I also work quite a bit with Tassel. I am now, I guess, like self-appointed executive director of Tassel, more or less. I was creative director before Sendo left.
But you made yourself executive director?
I made myself creative director, and now I'm basically executive director. That kind of exists, and that's like a more higher level league, an invite league that we try to put a heavy emphasis on, the broadcast and the content and things that go around that. So you can find that on Twitter at Tassel_SPL. Cool stuff coming soon. With that, you can find me personally on Twitter at Kbot_273. I also do a lot of commentary. I am gonna try to do more scrim analysis from the Plus server, in which I am an analyst that talks much more. I look onto the overhead view and I look about team engagements. I talk about positioning. I talk about those sorts of things, working with the composition you have, or trying to figure out, what kinds of other compositions that there are there. So if you're interested there, you can find me on Twitch at Kbot_273 as well, to do a lot more of that. You can find me in various commentating things sometimes and elsewhere. But the best place to keep up with everything I do is my Twitter and my opinions. Twitter, that's at Kbot_273. So thanks for having me. Do you want me to make one quick point about the low-level rankings thing?
If you can do it in like a minute, go ahead. Yeah.
Sure. So I want to peel back behind the curtain real quick. And I want to remind you all that seeding for tournament organizers is about the same as doing a power ranking. And if matter of fact, it is the same as doing a power ranking. And I have to do it in about the span of 3 hours. Power rankings sometimes just kind of release whenever they want to in the span of 3 days. If I get stuff wrong, sorry about that. I'm doing my best. I'll be honest, I don't pay that close attention to the lower level scene just because there are so many of you and one of me. I tend to focus my efforts obviously with like Tassel around the higher level community. So if I get stuff wrong with seeding, sorry about that. But I'm trying to rank, yesterday it was 33 teams on 5 hours of sleep for about an hour and a half. That's just kind of the way it is. So, a lot of the arguments that you have are, keep in the back of your head, you might be a little frustrated about the power rankings, but it's the same thing with tournament seeding too, right? Feel free to outperform wherever you're ranked or outperform your seed, and eventually you'll get noticed.
Kbot, thank you for coming on. Make sure you take like a week or two to just chill out a little bit, dude, because that's going to be the hope. We need you in this community, and obviously you need to do your summer stuff. So make sure.
I've got a couple of loose ends to tie up, I think, early this week, but the rest of the week, I think, is going to be a nice little bit of time off, hopefully.
Thank you once again, Kbot.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And that was Kbot of Cloudburst, in-game TV commentator, basically just all-around community guy that we have here in Splatoon. Full disclosure, when I first started, a quick story because I really need to go. When I first started getting into commentary, Kbot was one of the the only person I really reached out to and be like, hey, what the hell do I do here? And Kbot's given me a lot of good advice on that, and has actually VOD reviewed it with me once as a commentator, which is weird. You think commentators can VOD review themselves and talk about some things. So there was one time where I sat down and VOD reviewed my commentary with Kbot, and he's like, you should have, I wish you would have kicked this back over to your other commentator here, or I wish you would have expanded more on your point there. So Kbot's been a good asset for me in my personal career. So it was good to have him on. There's so many things you can talk about with Kbot, but since that was so impromptu, maybe next time I have Kbot on, I'll actually plan it out, I promise, instead of just that. But that went really well. Regardless, we don't have time to talk anymore. We are going to rate. I saw Decora was streaming. If you would like to be a part of the Popcast in any way, if you would actually like to be on the show without me just coming up with it during the show, feel free to reach out to me at Twitter, Mr._Popgun, Discord, Popgun, #5882, YouTube at 25 Popgun, Twitch at Popgun25. All the VODs that I have on the Popcast go on to YouTube. I will be back on Wednesday to recap Ludi week number 2 for episode 49, and then next week on Monday will be episode 50. We'll do something special for that, unless we don't. Tell Takora I said hi. I gotta go. Make sure you get your vaccine when the opportunity for that arises. Keep wearing your mask. Don't be an idiot. Fight the urge to be an idiot. You can do better. We can all do better.